Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I have a project for the Nook Designs blog featuring their newest Easter set called Bunny Hop. And to start my project off, I printed out on some cardstock the word tails, and I printed it in 4 different places, and I'm going to be cutting this cardstock into fourths so that when I fold it in half, it will look like those there where the tails is in the bottom right hand corner of the folded over flap, because I will be decorating little marshmallow bags with these toppers. So I'm going to stamp on some of the bunnies for the toppers and then just tape it down over the bag of marshmallows. The bags that I'm working with are 3x4 and they are 4x6 because the width of them is 4 inches. So when you cut that piece of cardstock into quarters, you'll get 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 pieces of cardstock, and then you fold that in half, and it would equal out to about 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, and that will cover those bags perfectly, those 4x6 bags there, and it gives just enough of an overlap on both sides of the 4-inch bag. So like I said, I'm cutting it into quarters and then I'm scoring it in the middle to create that topper. Then I'm going to be decorating it with the stamps from Newton's Nook. Now I had just printed out the word tails because the word bunny is in the Bunny Hop stamp set, but it does require some masking to get that word. So you see there that I've been experimenting with this because I wanted to make sure that it would work if I stamped bunnies and try out some of my different Copic colors and things like that. I'm going to be Copic coloring this first one, and so I'm using My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink, but I will also be showing you a paper piecing option in case coloring is not for you or you feel like the coloring takes too long, because this is one of those things where you are just attaching it to a treat bag, and so some people might consider it kind of a disposable option. And after I stamped the bunny, I had already created these masks for my 1-layer card for the last Inky Paws challenge, and so I wanted to utilize that so that I could stamp the bunnies so they look one behind the other. But before I stamped the second bunny, I remembered that I need to make sure that I have enough room for the word bunny. And like I said, that's going to require some manipulating, because the sentiment says there's no bunny but no bunny but you, or love no bunny but you. But I just want the bunny. So I took some cut up Post-it notes and covered all parts of the stamp except the word bunny, then peeled the Post-it notes off and stamped it down. And I know that you can cut apart your stamps, and in some cases I don't mind doing that, but in this case there was sentiment on the top and the bottom of it, and so it wasn't something that I wanted to do, and this kind of quick masking works as well. And that's a great alternative too for people who don't like to cut their stamps and they just want to leave out one particular part. So as mentioned, I masked off the first bunny and then stamped an egg and a second bunny, and then that first bunny will look like he's in front of everything. And I'm going to continue to utilize that mask to make sure that the eggs look in front of and behind the bunnies, just for some added interest and depth. And I really like to use the Inkadinkado stamping mask paper because, as you see, I've used this mask a few times and it's still working great and really gives full coverage. I also had some masks of the eggs, and so I decided I might as well use them and cover one of the eggs, and that allowed me to stamp behind the eggs again, just to give them a little bit more depth to the scene. Once I have all of these stamped, I will move on to my coloring. I decided to do some solid coloring on these bunnies. I was going for a kind of Peeps look, like the Marshmallow Peep bunnies, and doing a solid color as opposed to a realistic color, for 2 reasons. One, I thought that it would be easier and it would allow me to use more fun spring colors, but also because I wanted to just make the overall look of it much more bright and happy, and if I colored them realistic colors, then I'd be left with brown or white or black bunnies, and I just wanted to make sure that it was really fun and interesting. So I decided to go with some purples and oranges. Purple and orange is a complement on the color wheel. And I also, looking at my Copic colors, I have some blues that would have worked, but I decided against the blue, which you might have seen when I kind of showed one that I had off to the side, because I knew that I would want to add a sky eventually. You see that I also added 3 butterflies. Those butterflies are from Newton's Daydream, another Newton's Nook stamp set. Of course, you could use any butterflies you have on hand, or just leave the sky blank, but I thought it would just be another way to add in some fun color. So as I'm coloring these bunnies, I'm using VO4 and VO6, and I'm keeping the coloring pretty straightforward. I covered the entire bunny in the lighter color, then I took some of the darker color, and I'm going to place it all along the left and right side of the bunny, leaving the center to be lighter to give the effect of a little bit of roundedness and dimension. But otherwise pretty straightforward because I don't want this to take too much time. When I give this to somebody, I rather imagine that they might keep it for a couple days. They could pull it off the packaging and it's already pre-folded so they could stand up and display it. But eventually it might be something that they decide to toss, and so it's not something I want to spend a painstaking amount of time with. And so I use that same kind of coloring technique on all of the different elements, where I used the lighter color as a base layer and then added some dimension with the darker color. Shadows go where 2 objects meet, like so where the egg or the bunny meets the other egg or bunny, there would be a shadow line. And for the oranges, I'm using YR65 and YR68. I'm doing 2 colors on everything, again, just to create something that is relatively easy to do, and I don't have to fuss with it as much. But after coloring it, and I didn't entirely love the look of them, I didn't know that they really read the kind of fun peep look that I was going for, or if maybe they just looked a little bit strange and psychedelic. So I do decide to paper piece them as well, and I'm going to use the same color combination when I do that because I do like the purples and oranges. I think that's a fun color for Easter. And one of my favorite things about creating Easter projects is you can pretty much use every color of the rainbow. Nothing's really off limits with Easter. I guess it does, lend towards a little bit more the pastels, maybe not so much red, but you can really have fun with your color combinations. As I add the distress ink around them, I decided to put a little bit of removable adhesive between the 2 layers so that the cardstock would stay down and wouldn't keep flipping up and cause me to spread ink where I didn't want it. Because I'm going to be pulling this blue to the edges of the images, I wanted to have something that was smaller than the Tim Holtz round foam blender from Ranger. I thought that would be too big and I would have a hard time pulling it in between the 2 butterflies and things like that, or in between the 2 ears of the bunny. So I go with this Sukaneko finger dauber, and I'm using peacock feathers. I use the website Color Scheme Designer, and I'll leave a link to that, and it kind of recommended that if you're going to go with the blue and an orange and a purple, that turquoise would go better than like a traditional blue sky, and so that's what I decided to go with. As you experiment more and make a lot of cards, you kind of get used to what color combinations you like, but I do think that is always a good resource when you are not quite sure what you want, or you don't want to spend the time experimenting with different colors and you kind of just want something a little more tried and true. So I'm just going to leave a halo around the images. I'm not coming right to the edges. I suppose I could if I covered everything with masks, but I actually just have the one bunny mask, and I kind of like that look of the softer area around them, around the images, and so I'm just going to keep pulling that in until I get it the way that I like it. And I'm not going to bother with adding grass, even though the bunny should be sitting on something, because I thought it would be really difficult to pull that color in without messing with my Copic color. Once I have it all colored up, I'm just adding a little bit of double stick tape to the inside, sticking the bag down, and then the top flap on top of the bag. I'm pretty generous with the adhesive because I don't want these to fall apart as they get handled and passed out. Now, like I said before, I decided that it would be fun to show another way to do the same kind of look in case you don't like coloring or you didn't like the way the coloring turned out and you just wanted to give something else a try, so I decided to paper piece the bunnies and create the same project. Now, this PDF of the tails, the printable, essentially, is going to be available, and there's a link to it at my blog. So if you check that out, you can download the printable and print it off so that you can create these easily. But you could just go into a Word document and add the word bunny tails, and then stamp these adorable little bunnies from Newton's Nook to go along with it. I am using some Lawn Fawn paper. It's their oldest collection of pattern paper in the 6x6 pad, and I picked it mostly just because it had that same purple and orange. Purple is kind of a tricky color to find in pattern paper for some reason, but I really like it, and I thought that, you know, it looked really good. So I am going to just color the tails for just a little bit of interest, because I didn't want it to be too plain, and to make the tail stick out, because I do think that's a cute little detail that is added on this bunny stamp. And then I'm going to back it with some tape already before I fussy cut it out. Now you see there that as I was manipulating around the papers, I noticed that the ink was still all over the Ranger craft sheet. I really like that the Ranger craft sheet makes for easy cleanup, but you have to be careful when you're working with it that, you know, if you're inking up a background paper and you're getting that ink all over the Ranger craft sheet, you're going to want to clean it, because if you place another piece of, whether it be pattern paper or any other material, on top of it, the ink is sitting on top of the mat, and so it will get onto your other project. Whereas if you use like a piece of paper, the ink will, you know, absorb into the paper. So, you know, just make sure you have a little water bottle on hand. I have a mister from Ranger that I just always keep next to me so I can spray it down. And I keep some paper towels, paper napkins in a drawer right next to me, so I always have these for convenience. I trimmed out the bunnies, and I think that these are really easy to fussy cut. I took my Memento Tuxedo black marker and ran along the edges just to give it a little bit more finish, but you certainly wouldn't have to. Like I said, this is kind of a disposable project in some ways. And once I had the 3 bunnies on there, it was looking a little plain. And I decided that I still wanted to add the eggs, and even though that would take a little bit extra time because I would have to fussy cut the eggs, I decided that it was worth it. And I did the same thing where I ran the Memento Tuxedo black marker, and since I had 3 bunnies, I added 3 eggs, going with that rule of odds. It tends to look better. And just like before, I'm going to put down some adhesive, tape the bag down, fold over the top, and I will have my second Easter Bunny egg topper, and make a special punny gift for somebody, as the marshmallows are supposed to be like the fluffy bunny tails in this instance. You of course could make these smaller, maybe use mini marshmallows, and it wouldn't take so much time, but I had fun with it. And that's it for my project today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafty videos, you can subscribe to my channel. I will leave you links to the products in the video description below, including the Newton's Nook blog, so you can check this out in my blog, where you can get the PDF of the tails image. Thanks for watching. Bye.